I do not think Suella Braverman is the right person. I think Suella's rhetoric at times can be overly explosive, overly divisive, is not what the country wants to hear in all cases, because I think it is too aggressive. And whilst there are some things that I would agree with her on in terms of taking on the civil service, which I do think at times has not been helpful or supportive towards a Conservative government, taking on the quangos that are essentially using millions of pounds of taxpayers' money, but not having the level of transparency or accountability they should do. But I certainly do not think Suella Braverman is the appropriate choice to reunite the Conservative Party.
What do you think should be the first steps that your party takes now as it works out how to respond to that rejection by voters?
Well, I think the first thing that needs to happen is a clear timeline laid out for when the new leadership contest will take place. And I know that there's been a lot of chatter around Westminster about going long, sort of December, but I do think that would be, in my opinion, a grave mistake. I don't want party conference, which will be televised, and the first time that the country probably tunes into the Conservative Party, potentially in the next 6 months, to be where we're showing we're disunity, where we're debating one another. And in fact, what I'd rather is a presentation of the new leader with their new team, a united party ready to go out and listen and learn to the lessons from the country when it comes to what it is that we need to do and what we stand for in order to win back those voters who either sat at home or lodged a protest vote with other parties. I think that for me is the abundantly important thing. And of course, with the election of the 22 chairman, which will I think take place this evening, we'll be one step closer to that process beginning.
Yeah, so that is, of course, the 1922 committee, which will draw up the rules for the contest. And so what you're saying is you'd like them to get on with it right away and have it, under the same rules that we had last time, so that you get the MPs whittling it down to two candidates. And I guess then those two candidates going out to the wider party membership over the summer.
Absolutely. Look, for me, the members must have a vote. It is absolutely essential. Those members have gone out in the local elections in May. They've then gone straight into a general election. They've delivered leaflets, knocked on thousands of doors, as I've experienced in my own Stoke-on-Trent Conservative Association. They pay their money to not just be able to be volunteer fodder. They pay their money to be able to have a say who they want to be their local council candidate, who they want to be their local parliamentary candidate, and who they want to be the leader of the Conservative Party. And without our volunteers, we simply wouldn't be an electoral force. And that is why it's abundantly clear to me that members must retain that all-important vote. And I agree that I don't want Sir Keir Starmer to be able to get to his first budget, rumoured to be in and around October after the party conference season, and basically responding to an interim leader with an interim shadow cabinet, which essentially will be our first opportunity to really push back against the narrative that Rachel Reeves is clearly desperate to set. And if we miss that opportunity, I fear that what Labour will try and do is create their own version of the note that they wrote back in 2010 that said there was no money left when they left.
We're already seeing hints of that, aren't we, from what Rachel Reeves was saying yesterday, talking about the disastrous state of the public finances that she'd uncovered. But just one more on this question of the arrangements for the leadership. Are you not concerned, as I know some of your colleagues are, that if you do that, you are setting up an identical scenario to the one that gave your party Liz Truss as party leader and, of course, Prime Minister then? Are you not worried that that means that the party membership will choose someone who suits their views but is not necessarily going to be the right person to appeal more widely and restore wider public support for the Conservatives across the country?
I don't share those concerns at all. If anything, the Conservatives are very badly bruised. They've had two sets of local elections in May 2023 and in May 2024, which saw disastrous results. They've obviously had a general election, which has led to our worst result in 100 plus years as a party. Seats like Stoke-on-Trent South and my dear friend Jack Brereton losing by 650 votes, seats that we would have hoped to have kept. Myself losing by a margin much smaller than the Reform vote in its entirety. I think that the members were abundantly clear. We have to get the right leader. We have to make the right choice. And that leader has to be someone who's going to unite the Conservative Party. No more talk about left or right, just simply the Conservative Party, and train all our attention on our opposition, which is this new Labour government, and make sure that we are forward facing, listening to the public, and come up with a coherent set of policies that are engaging to all voter groups from all different demographics, particularly with age. So we need to regain our status as the party of pro-house building. We need to really be sound on the economy and offer a low tax economy that also still manages to retain confidence in investing and well-run public services.
And I can
That's what.
understand why you say that you don't want to talk about left or right. And I'm sure that many people listening will share that view. But there is, isn't there, this tension from people who are looking at the result that was your party's worst defeat. And will say, well, look, reform took away a lot of potential seats, took away a lot of potential Conservative MPs, maybe just reduced the Tory vote to the extent that that let in Labour. But others, and I've been talking to defeated Tory MPs in other parts of the country, lost to the Liberal Democrats. And there is a real tension, isn't there, and a real difficulty to say, do we move on to reform territory? Do we really adopt a very hard line on things like immigration and levels of public spending and so on? Or should we be perhaps a bit closer to where the Liberal Democrats are and addressing concerns about problems with the state of our waters and so on? I mean, do you not accept that there is a real tension there as to which direction your party should go in? And I wonder whether you have a sense of where you think that should be.
Well, first of all, when we were in Parliament over the last in the last 4.5 years, I was definitely one of those colleagues who, on occasion, fell into the trap of sort of left versus right within the Conservative Party, and I hold my hands up and apologise to our members and to the country, and I hope that members of maybe sort of a different wing of the party would accept that that was also reciprocated by them towards people like myself, and those lessons have to be learnt. I don't think we should be Lib Dem light or Reform light. I think we should be the Conservative Party, have a very clear and coherent offer to the public based in Conservative principles, those centre-right principles that saw us elected in places in like 2010 and 2015, where David Cameron did have a very hard line still on immigration, wanted to see reduced to tens of thousands in terms of legal migration, whilst also wanting to be a champion of a sort of the big society, where we want to back our third sector and make sure we have well-run public services. And I think that you can straddle both horses. I think the challenge will now be for Sir Keir Starmer, to be perfectly frank, in the Labour Party, where he'll have MPs in places like Stoke-on-Trent, which are very, they want to see immigration come down, the voters down here. It came up repeatedly on doorsteps, but he'll also now have maybe some of those traditional sort of blue wall seats where maybe immigration isn't a top three issue. And I think that Labour will go through their own pain in discovering that as well.
So you've talked about the importance of getting the right leader in place. Obviously, we haven't got a contest. We haven't got any declared candidates. But as you, I'm sure, are well aware, there are plenty of people already dipping their toe into that water. Robert Jenrick setting out where he thinks the Tories went wrong. Victoria Atkins on the sofas at the weekend. Others, including Tom Tugendhat, Suella Braverman and Priti Patel, likely to be in the running. Where do you think, who would you like to see? I should have talked, of course, about Braverman, who's likely to be one of the leading contenders. Who would you like to see leading your party?
So I'm now just a humble member and will have to wait till the final two are presented to me if those are indeed the rules that we're being governed by our parliamentary party. I certainly want someone who is able to unite the party, who comes and understands the broad church of the Conservative Party. He's maybe served in some of those governments in their period of time. I am abundantly clear that I do not think Suella Braverman is the right person. I think Suella's rhetoric at times can be overly explosive, overly divisive, is not what the country wants to hear in all cases, because I think it is too aggressive. And whilst there are some things that I would agree with her on in terms of taking on the civil service, which I do think at times has not been helpful or supportive towards a Conservative government, taking on the quangos that are essentially using millions of pounds of taxpayers' money but not having the level of transparency or accountability they should do. But I certainly do not think Suella Braverman is the appropriate choice to reunite the Conservative Party. And I will simply now wait to see who is willing and brave enough, to be perfectly frank, is a big task ahead of them, to throw their hat in the ring. And we'll wait, like all members, to see who we get to choose between.